Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wax and Wings, which is a creative podcast that we just kind of talk about whatever we want to talk about. So we're still kind of trying to figure out our way here, but this is our pilot episode. So welcome in, welcome in. Quick note for anybody listening, you may hear a dog barking or cats or snoring or something along those lines. Tiffany has a bunch of animals, as do I. So, they will probably get picked up from time to time here.
Perfect.
So I am Artemis Burnett. I go by Vampire Antihero in all of my social media and my art presence. I am a writer, an illustrator, and an actor. I do a little bit of everything. Mostly for my illustrations, I try to stick to a semi-realistic dark style. And I am currently working on a novel series with one of my best friends. We'll get into some of our projects in a bit here, but these are just a couple of things that we do. Wax and Wings is something that we are currently doing together, Tiffany and I, and it's going to be basically the umbrella of this podcast, which is Wax and Wings podcast. And as of yet, unnamed animation and concept art project, and whatever else we decide to see fit underneath that umbrella. So, Tiffany, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Tiffany. I go by the Candlelight. I enjoy sci-fi and fantasy, and I have no words.
That's okay. So, Tiffany does a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, and I do dark fantasy and fantasy. So we kind of have two different spheres that overlap a little bit. Yeah. Sci-fi is interesting because it's pretty much just fantasy with tech, but it's
Never explained that way before.
Yeah, right. But it's not wrong.
What do you say?
So yeah, that's who we are. What do you think? Should we what are we trying to share with the world here? Like, how long have you been illustrating, and why is this a thing that you want to do?
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember how long I've been doing this. I'm old.
That's okay, so am I.
I have been painting since I was a kid, and I went to college for it, have a BFA in it. I went the traditional route, though. I have a BFA in art studio, and then I couldn't get anywhere with that, so I decided to kind of learn how to do digital painting and kind of fell in love with illustration. So that's what I've been trying to learn how to do recently. I want to illustrate my own book.
That's awesome. I'm kind of coming from the same angle here. I started seriously looking at doing something in the art realm when I graduated from high school in 2009. I'd taken a couple of graphic design courses, and I went into school for graphic design. I got a 2-year degree in commercial art, which was basically graphic design and photography as a dual major for an associate's degree. Once I got that, I switched completely out of the art sphere and into history for whatever godforsaken reason. I thought I couldn't make any money or something. Did that for a year, switched back into art history, and then switched into graphic design again. Got irritated because they made me retake a class that I'd already taken for like 5 times at that point. Switched out of graphic design into 2D and printmaking. So I have a BFA in printmaking, and now I do exactly none of that and do a bunch of pen and ink drawing and digital artwork. I'm working full-time freelance as a illustrator, particularly doing character art and book covers for people.
It's too, and props.
Yeah, I do a little bit of everything, but I don't know. I do a little bit of everything. I'm trying to niche down so that people know what they can commission me for, but really my commissions are open all the time. So just poke me if you want to work with me. That's kind of where I go. So that's who we are. there's no like prestige here. We don't have any awards or anything like that. We're just two artists who are kind of, we've gotten to be friends over the course of doing mentorships together and working together in small discords and stuff like that. And we decided that it would be fun to collaborate together and do a project.
Yeah. Artemis, what kind of projects do you have going on right now?
What kind of projects do I have going on right now? Oh my God. That's a loaded question. Right now, I am doing quite a few things. There is this unnamed project that we are working on together. There is another project that has kind of hit the back burner that we were both working on together, along with a couple of other colleagues. I'm also a writer, I mentioned. One of my flagship series right now is something that I am co-writing with my best friend, Auden Eris Everin. They are co-writing The Night Garden with me, Tales from the Night Garden. We are looking to have our debut out sometime by the end of 2025 or early 2026 at the latest. So that'll be Tales from the Night Garden Lemon Balm. I'm doing all the artwork for that series. A lot of my personal work has those OCs involved. What else? I am about to start a illustration project focusing on Bram Stoker's Dracula, where I'm going to be doing most of the concept work digitally, but I'm going to do most of the actual illustrations traditionally in pen and ink, and possibly some gouache paintings. So I'm pretty excited to get started in that. I'm starting to hit the point right now. I'm rereading the story, and I'm starting to hit the point of where I can start picking out what I kind of want to illustrate and really doing the thumbnails for those. So that's going to be exciting once I get started on that.
Sure. I'm looking forward to those too.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. Tales from the Night Garden, Dracula, Wax and Wings. Going back to Tales from the Night Garden, I have a few books underneath that umbrella that we've been doing. Lemon Balm is the one that's going to come out at the end of 2025/early 2026. There is Aloe, which is the second book in the series. That should be out probably a year after the first one comes out. And then we have a couple other books that are in that series that have already been written, but they're still in various stages of the editing process. There is A Pirate's Moon, which is a prequel that is centering around one of the main characters, Acanthus, who is one of the characters that I kind of obsess over in my drawings. They show up quite a bit. So, and then I have a short story that I am putting into an anthology pretty soon here called All the Beauty You Cannot See. And that should be shared. If I get into the anthology, that is going to be published in October. So that's what I got going on. I also act in a local theater, but that's not going to have like anything that people can like look up or anything like that.
You are very active.
I do too much.
I don't think anyone can keep up. How do you do it?
I can't keep up. I mean, I can, but it takes me a bit to get things done. So I have my fingers in all these pots, and then I wonder why I'm tired. So,
oh no, don't get burned out though.
And oh no,
that's something that we want to talk about eventually.
Yeah, and I have some tips on how to avoid burnout and stuff like that too. Oh, something I didn't mention is also my YouTube channel. I do put out art tips and stuff on YouTube. Lately, it's been kind of relegated to shorts, but I do every so often put out long form video as well. And I put a couple of shorts. I put a couple of art tips and stuff like that onto my blog on the website as well. Every so often I'll share some free stories and art tips and stuff like that, just to help people out. What else? I also kind of keep up with a Ko-fi and a Patreon to put out a newsletter and just give people an option to support as well. So I do have my fingers in a lot of pots. Jeez. Yeah, I
Hey,
mean, as
poopers
long
and
as I can
fires.
keep up with them, right? Oh, there's also HLA. um, Tiffany and I are both on a Discord admin team called Happy Little Accents. It's for a group of artists that are kind of starting to form a collective, and we do a bunch of stuff for that as well.
If you mentioned that, you have to mention DPS as well.
Okay. I am also a moderator for Digital Painting Studio, which is owned by Hardy Fowler. And I kind of take care of the alumni stuff there and keep an eye on the general moderation, make sure that everything's going on, everything's smooth, and yeah, manage that Discord. So
He's one of the people who helps things run smoothly and takes care of bots and answers questions.
I kind of
welcomes
co-manage
people.
with our mutual friend Ezo Z. But yeah, that's a really fun project as well. But many fingers, many pots. So with that, let's kick it over to you, Tiffany. What are you all doing?
Oh gosh, that's hard to follow up. I don't feel like I'm doing quite as much as you are. I am currently in a mentorship, and that's kind of taking the main focus for me. I am taking a mentorship with, I'm going to butcher his name. I'm so sorry. Agyan Foreign? I think that's
so.
how it's pronounced. And he's...
we can put a link to the mentorship and to his socials down in the description.
Yeah, that's something somebody asked in the first class, and I've listened to it like 3 times, and I still can't pronounce it correctly. It's just one of those things. But I'm taking a mentorship with him. It's a 8-week class on character illustration, and we are currently on week 2. So I am enjoying that and thoroughly trying to improve my art skills and come up with a process of my own instead of relying on everyone else's
improve
processes.
her art skills. She says she's already a fantastic artist.
Thank you. I'll take your word for it. I sometimes don't see that.
It's hard to see, especially when you're used to like breaking everything down and kind of being hypercritical of your own stuff.
Yeah, and that's something I need to work on. I know I'm a little hard on myself. I've heard this before. So maybe that's a topic we can talk about in our podcast.
Self-esteem.
Artists and self-esteem. Is that even part of our vocabulary? I don't know.
I think self-esteem is if you draw a Venn diagram with artists and esteem or self-esteem, they're just 2 circles. They're separate.
Yeah, right now I have the mentorship going on. That's going to take up 8 weeks of my time. It's a lot. I'm trying to launch a website and start doing commissions. Hopefully people will be receptive. I'm really hopeful about that. The website's almost done. I've just been putting it off a little bit because other things got in the way. I had some health issues, so it kind of got put on the back burner. Speaking of back burner, a project that ARTEMIS mentioned with some of our mutual friends and colleagues, that got put on the back burner. I'm desperately trying to bring it back because I have some stuff and I refuse to post any of it until they jump on the bandwagon and say, hey, yeah, we're ready to start doing this again. So I have a bunch of stuff to share with them. And until they're ready to work on the project again, I'm not sharing any of it. So, nah. What else? I am also part of the team on HLA. I don't really know what I do other than try and boost morale sometimes.
Don't sell yourself short. We have a group meeting every other week that you are constantly a part of, and you're helping with the brand recognition. You're helping with ideating what that looks like, what the collective looks like. And you also are a moderator in that group.
Well, I try.
Self-esteem, Tiffany.
One of-
Self-esteem.
Yes, I know. I'm terrible at this.
It's okay.
Literally, when we were doing our first takes on the intros, I kept saying I was bad at this. So you might hear me say this quite a few times until I get comfortable. What else? I am also part of the DPS team. I was a host for a long time and was recently asked to become a mod, which is a big responsibility, but I enjoy it. I like talking to people and just kind of hanging out in the lounge, and met some really cool people the other day. Some of them were in Colombia, so
Awesome.
that was an interesting experience. And it's really nice just being part of these bigger groups. I think ARTEMIS can attest to that. We get to be friends with people all over the world, even though we sit in our own little caves sometimes.
Oh yeah, I have a little bat cave that just kind of stays dark and cozy at all times. So it's fun being an artist because you can be an introvert and still have friends all over the world and still just not interact with anybody. So
well, I can't really think of anything else.
okay, I mean, that was a pretty good introduction to what we are working on. So why don't we introduce what we're kind of doing with this podcast? Like, what do we want to talk about with this podcast? What is the reason we're doing this?
Well, I think it started off with a bunch of memes.
Maybe a little bit. It kind of started with defending Disney, but I think that really what we're trying to do here is to give people hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of hopelessness in the world right now, especially in terms of creativity, artists, writers, anybody who is dealing with the state of politics right now, the state of creativity right now with AI and the creative industry. All of these uncertainties that are popping up, and things get really heavy. So I feel like one of the things that we want to do is we want to talk to people who are kind of in the same station as we are, just trying to kind of carve out a space with our own freelancing and projects and opportunities, kind of give people the hope that there's still something here, like, even if that is hard to see. And also, creativity isn't just for money, and that's something to keep in mind too. Like, we're both kind of constantly talking about the things that we are doing, and the projects that we're passionate about, the characters, the writing styles, researching things that are new and interesting ways to tackle things, and giving people the opportunity to see that, like, you can still do those things. You don't have to do it for money. And
just do it for fun, do what you're passionate about, and just express yourself.
Exactly. Because that's kind of what the world needs. Like, we really do need people to keep doing their artwork. Don't give it up just because, someone told you not to quit your day job. Like, and that's kind of easy for me to say because I've been doing this freelance for a while. But also, like, I understand that freelancing is very hard. And
yeah, but I currently have a day job, or technically a night job. So I get a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's hard to transition out of that. So
yeah, and like, that being said, like, I have looked at picking up things part-time and stuff like that as well. Like, the thing about doing things freelance and the thing about owning your own business is that it can be very, very unsteady. And, that's scary to not have something that's safe. But yeah, long story short, I think that that's kind of where we're coming from, giving people hope, giving people kind of ideas on where to start, and giving people the inspiration to keep going on your projects and what you're interested in.
It's easy to kind of get lost when other people are telling you what to do and how to do it. And I guess we kind of want to find our own approaches now. Because we've spent a long time, I don't know, following other people's ways of doing things. And we decided to do this to kind of branch out on our own.
Exactly. Like, I've been freelancing since 2020, and most of that time I've been, trying to get into the industry in some way, shape, or form. And I'm established enough with my own stuff in order to just kind of go for it, try and make that indie thing work and see where I get with it.
I think we'll do fine.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think, there's so many things that tend to fall through the cracks because people are bad at sharing what they're working on too. And this is,
I'm terrible at that.
well, and this is kind of an attempt to fix that, right? Like, we're literally sitting here talking about what we're doing for this first episode. And I'm sure that a lot of the things that we have planned are going to wind up having us talk about those things in some way, shape, or form as well. Because really the easiest way to talk about something that you're working on or the easiest way to talk about the topic really is to talk about what you're working on.
Well, I'm looking forward to this project, and we've kind of skirted around what the project actually is.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
I'm pretty excited for this project too. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun to work on. One of the things that I'm very, very interested in, and especially in terms of being like a dark fantasy artist and a storyteller as well, is mythology. Mythology is one of the things that I kind of frequently come back to. So this unnamed project is focusing on Hades and Persephone, which, if you don't know Greco-Roman pantheon stuff, I know a lot of people do. It's pretty common in pop culture. But Hades is the god of the underworld, and Persephone is the goddess of spring, while also being a fertility goddess and the goddess of the queen of the underworld, essentially. We're kind of playing around with a couple of concepts still. We've kind of solidified a little bit about it. I don't know how much we want to give away here, if we want to keep any of it secret, or if we want to start talking about it more when we have some of the concept work done. But let me kick that over to you.
I'm gonna let you take that. Well, the idea is to start building a bunch of concept artwork. It revolves around our story of Hades and Persephone and their journey into a modern world.
Yep. Where do gods find a place in the modern world? And how are they tethered to their powers? And if their powers are connected to their life force, so to speak, and what does that mean in the modern day when we have such different ideas of what our day-to-day looks like versus what the ancient world did? And we have things that take our attention that would never have existed or been thought about in the ancient world. Like, how many distractions do we have in our day-to-day, like the news, TV, internet, all sorts of things that didn't exist in the ancient world.
Yeah. And we had this one idea, I can't remember if it was me or you or both of us that came up with it, of Hades and Persephone going into this park to go play chess with each other.
Yeah.
So, as older folks. I really enjoyed that concept, and that's one thing that I really look forward to concepting out and creating the character images for and illustrating and maybe even animating. So, you want to write a little bit?
If we can get to a point of animating, that would be really, really cool. Tiffany and I both find a lot interesting about animation and are both kind of self-taught, still beginners, but self-taught in terms of the skills that go along with that. One of the things that I find really interesting with this idea is that age isn't linear in what we're kind of building. How old somebody is kind of dependent on how strong their powers are. And if I say much more than that, it's going to kind of give away a lot of the story. So I'd rather not say much more than that. But it's an interesting concept, and I'm excited to draw concepts for these gods at different stages of their lives.
It's something to both kind of enrich our portfolios and make us better artists, and to kind of flesh out an idea that we both enjoy.
Exactly. It's and it's something like a portfolio. First off, like we don't really talk much about portfolios in our planned episodes here, I don't think, but a portfolio is essentially just what you've done, right? Like at its core, what a portfolio is what you've done for work, and how in depth you can go with that work. So doing something like this in an indie sphere is going to be really fun to kind of develop, and it's also just going to be a really big thing that we can point at and be like, hey, we worked on this. So
I think it's going to be great. I have been excited for this all year long.
Yeah.
How long have we actually been planning this? When did we start?
We started in like the middle of December, because I remember I just started working on the last of my commission examples. And I was like, well, let me finish my commission examples before we start really leaning heavily into this.
Yeah.
So.
And then I started spamming you with Hercules memes.
Yep. And then we started looking at the art behind Hercules and some of the concept art, and that was really fun.
Yeah, it's been a journey. But that's half the fun.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting how much work goes into even just ideating something, like before you ever even pick up the tablet pen or the notebook. Okay, so that is the untitled Hades and Persephone project. Do we have anything else that we should talk about?
Sure. What else is there to talk about? We introduced ourselves.
We talked about what we're doing in terms of freelance and contract work. We talked a little bit about what we do together with the DPS and HLA servers. We haven't really talked about how we met, so why don't we do that?
Okay. The way that Artemis and I met was he was hosting, so he was a mod, and he was hosting some of these daily studies on the DPS server. And I was very depressed at the time and lonely, and decided to join in as a way to maybe make some friends and not be so alone anymore. So I joined in and spent a lot of time hanging out with all these faceless people, because on a Discord server, nobody really uses their camera. And
you know how artists are.
Yeah.
They're shy and don't want to do not perceive me, just perceive what I'm working on.
Yeah. But I joined in and hung out with all these people, and every day, was it every day? It was on a pretty good schedule at the time.
Yeah, it was when Izo and I were doing the daily studies, it was every weekday.
Yeah.
And then we scaled it back to twice a week per person. So I think I did Tuesdays and Thursdays, and he did Mondays and Wednesdays.
But I was joining it as often as I could, because I finally found people I connected with and didn't feel so alone anymore. And I just remember I started obsessing over this stupid golf game. because I could pester everyone into playing with me anytime I felt alone or too sad, and they would come hang out with me for a little bit longer. And Artemis and Ezo and Shadow and Chaco and Randy were usually the takers who joined me.
Yeah.
So I kept it up, and we all stayed friends after the fact. So that's how we all met, and we've stayed friends this entire time. It's been 2 years, 2.5 years.
2.5 years, yeah. And yeah, it's been, I don't see anybody really drifting apart anytime soon. It's been a great group of people, and a lot of good things have come from it too. And it's been really, really cool to watch people grow.
And we all do little collaborations together. We all hang out in various ways. I've watched movies with a lot of them over the internet, and little watch parties and stuff. So
we still need to watch Xena.
Yes, Studio Ghibli, Firefly. Just bring it. I want my vices. But Xena's on our list because of the theme of our project.
Right.
But that's how I met Artemis, and he's been a wonderful friend and one of my best friends. So,
aww.
Yeah. Your turn.
I mean, what can I add to that? Pretty much, yeah, what she said. What are some interests that kind of inform what you work on? For me, it is vampires, clearly, vampire anti-hero. I do a lot of stuff that is surrounding cryptids and vampires and werewolves and stuff like that. But yeah, I like to focus on cryptids, vampires, werewolves, witchy things. I do a lot of stuff that is tarot oriented. I mentioned that I spent a year as an art history major. I really enjoy art history, particularly Gothic architecture, high Gothic, flamboyant Gothic, those types of things. So I tend to doodle like ornate little things, like rose windows, stonework, that kind of stuff. I love to study that kind of thing. And also a lot of my artwork kind of features rose windows and like ornate carvings and stuff like that. And also I really enjoy Art Nouveau. If you know anything about Art Nouveau, pretty much you've seen anything from Alphonse Mucha.
Yeah, I know you like.
Yeah, I love Mucha. Love Art Nouveau. All the pretty swirly kind of ornate borders and stuff like that. I just really like ornate things, I guess. So, but I also like dark things. Like I draw a lot of things with bones, lots of like things involving death or, dark themes like that. Because in my mind, like those things exist, and art is one of those things that kind of helps you process things like that.
And I am nothing like that. I base a lot of things on my faith. And I also like cute, girly things. Pretty romanticized things. So, like the homework piece I'm working on right now, it revolves. I spoke about this earlier with Artemis, in fact. It revolves around kintsugi and the idea of a golden man fixing a woman made of porcelain.
Do you want to explain what kintsugi is for anyone who might not know?
Oh, yeah. So it's the Japanese art of deliberately breaking pottery pieces and fusing them back together with gold to make them better. Did I explain that right?
Yeah. And I like the idea of the man in gold kind of fixing the woman in porcelain. It is a little bit of a romantic notion, but it's one of those things where it's like giving parts of yourself. Everybody's kind of broken, right? And that's kind of the beautiful thing about relationships is nobody is expecting you to be whole and healthy and healed. But giving parts of yourself to leave someone better than how you found them, essentially. Um, I think it's a really nice positive message with something that is dark and moody. So it's right up my alley.
I came up with this idea when I was really depressed and feeling kind of abandoned and broken, and I had this idea that someone could make it better. So I wrote a poem about it and wanted to make a triptych, and I'm starting with a single illustration. So yeah, that's kind of where my theme is going for this project, and so far I'm liking my little doodle. I've only got one doodle for it so far. But
That's okay.
I have to do a lot of ideating for this one.
Yeah.
I'm being held accountable for that because I don't do enough ideating.
Neither do I, honestly. Like, it's a struggle to come up with 3 different ideas, let alone like 15. So I'm right there with you.
But yeah, that's what I'm doing, and I get a lot of inspiration from some of the classics. I am Artemis is a traditional painter, or comes from a traditional background too, but a lot of my influences are from like John Singer Sargent and stuff like that. So I really like the Lost Edge and Impressionism, stuff like that. Just vibrant colors.
Same here. I have
And
I have 2 posters on my wall that are Van Gogh paintings, and it's Van Gogh for me, and then also the lighting schemes of like Caravaggio and Artemisia Gentileschi. That kind of spotlight, kind of obscura type lighting, dramatic lighting.
yeah, it's just there's something very beautiful about those era type paintings because you get a lot of movement, you get a lot of storytelling, visual storytelling within a single piece, and it takes a long time for you to look at it and really see everything going on.
Yeah, and you might get something different from it story wise, based on how you're feeling at the time too.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm just really enjoying exploring some of this stuff, and I think it's starting to show up in my work more now. And I like doing little caricatures like mice and
yeah,
cute little things. I like doing studies of animals because they're sweet and I like animals.
whereas like I'll most likely do a study of like a building rather than an animal, or I'll do characters. I have a love-hate relationship with characters because like I do them professionally and I do love them, but like at the same time, every single time I do a character, I'm like, okay, I could have done this better, I could have done that better, this anatomy's off, like
So nitpicky.
yeah. Nitpicking my own work, but it's fine.
Yeah, as artists do.
I have a really clear idea in mind for the Dracula cover, so I really want to get started on that. But I also want to force myself to ideate for it too. So
Yeah, I think a little bit of ideation will probably do you some good.
yeah, it's just my problem is that I come up with an idea and I immediately want to do it. Like
I know, I struggle with that too.
it's hard to push past that. But I'm hoping that like by doing this project as a traditional piece, that it's going to wind up kind of making me feel a little bit more precious with my materials. So then I'm a little bit more like, okay, let me ideate this digitally, come up with a solid idea, and then have a traditional piece.
Be a little more conservative about things.
Yeah.
It's hard when you just want to jump in.
Yeah.
I get that way too sometimes.
I'm also chomping at the bit to do something new because I've been working on the same project for the last 3 months. So, like, I want to be done with this project. And it's not that it's like a boring project or anything like that, but I decided to do the same exact illustration 4 different times. And it's an illustration with 9 different characters in it and a lot of ornate swoops and swooshes and stuff like that.
In 4 different methods.
Yeah, it's the same illustration in 4 different methods. It's a heavy line work, a standard cell shade, a more in-depth version of cell shading that's based on the grisaille method, which is basically painting a value painting and then doing colored glazes over top, and then straight up digital painting. So I'm on the digital painting. I did the grisaille method. I did the standard cell shading. I did the line work. But I've spent so long on this project that I'm just kind of like, I need to not be doing this anymore. So I'm about halfway done with this last one, and I'm pretty excited for that.
I look forward to seeing how it all comes out too, because you've been working on it for so long, and it's going to be nice to see all the different ways you've put it together.
Right, and it gives me an option to really start pushing for my commissions and stuff like that too, because I do need to be better about marketing myself. That is one of the things I have the hardest time with. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the podcast and wrap this out.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a set list of topics to talk about for the first season. After we finish with that, it depends on how long this goes. We may up it to once every other week if we get to that point. Otherwise, we'll just do it once a month, and we'll take a little bit of a break when we're done with it and decide whether or not we're going to do a season 2, see where we're sitting, and work on our Hades and Persephone project and have some fun.
Yeah.
I hope that everybody is excited for this. I hope that this is something that sounds interesting to people. And I mean, even if it doesn't, we're going to have fun with it. So
yeah, this is for us more than anything, but we also hope that other people enjoy it too.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of our big takeaway. We want something for us, but we'd also like other people to kind of get some enjoyment out of it.
Yep. And depending on interest and stuff like that too, once we hit the point of actually animating this thing, we may look into more options on how to actually fund it. Like we may look into Kickstarter, we may look into grants and stuff like that. But it all depends on how much work we want to put into it, what time we have, and the interest. So if you like what you heard today with this podcast, then be sure to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments kind of what you're working on, what you kind of see coming up in the next couple of months for you. We're always excited to talk to other creatives about what they're doing, whether that is writing, music, art, acting, whatever. Let us know.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So with that, we're going to say goodbye. And we should be back sometime middle of April, if all goes well.
Yes.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.